You use it every single day. You probably have 3 or 4 different versions of it in your house right now. But if I asked you to explain how soap actually works, could you do it? Most people think soap is just a perfume that smells like lavender and kills germs, but the reality is way more intense and honestly, kind of violent. At a molecular level, soap is a double agent. It is a tiny, microscopic crowbar that literally tears viruses apart and forces polar opposites to get along. If you have ever wondered why you cannot just rinse your hands with water and call it a day, or why a greasy pan stays greasy until you add that one drop of blue liquid, stay tuned, because the science of soap is about to change the way you look at your bathroom sink forever.
To understand soap, we first have to understand the epic rivalry between water and oil. You have seen it 1,000 times. You pour oil into a glass of water and they immediately separate. No matter how much you stir, no matter how hard you shake it, they will never, ever mix. This is because water is what scientists call polar. Think of a water molecule like a tiny magnet. It has a positive side and a negative side. Because of this, water molecules absolutely love each other. They are constantly trying to stick together, forming these tight bonds that create what we call surface tension. This is why water beads up on a window or a freshly waxed car. It wants to stay with its own kind.
Oil, on the other hand, is nonpolar. It does not have those magnetic charges. So when water looks at oil, it sees something it has nothing in common with. The water molecules would rather stick to each other than hang out with the oil, so they push the oil away. This is a massive problem when you are trying to get clean. Most of the dirt, grime, and nasty stuff on your skin is trapped in your natural body oils. When you run your hands under the faucet, the water just glides right over that oil. It cannot grab onto the dirt because the oil is standing in the way like a protective shield. You could wash your hands for 10 minutes with just water, and you would still be covered in a layer of oily film.
This is where the soap molecule enters the chat. Soap is a specialized molecule called a surfactant, which stands for surface active agent, and the shape of this molecule is the key to its entire power. Imagine a tiny tadpole. The head of this tadpole is hydrophilic, which literally means water-loving. It is polar, just like water, so it wants to bond with water molecules more than anything. But the tail of the tadpole is hydrophobic, or water-fearing. It is a long chain of carbon and hydrogen atoms that hates water, but it absolutely loves oil and grease. So when you put soap on your hands and start scrubbing, a molecular war begins. The hydrophobic tails of the soap molecules are desperate to get away from the water, so they frantically look for a place to hide. They find the oil and grease on your skin and bury their heads, or rather their tails, right into it. Thousands of these soap molecules start surrounding every tiny speck of oil and every single germ trapped in that oil. They all point their tails inward toward the grease and keep their water-loving heads pointing outward. This creates a tiny, spherical structure called a micelle. Think of it like a little ball of soap molecules with a core of trapped grease in the middle. Because the outside of this ball is made up of water-loving heads, the entire package is now water-soluble. The soap has effectively acted as a bridge between the oil and the water. When you rinse your hands, the running water grabs onto the hydrophilic heads and carries the entire micelle, grease and all, right down the drain. You are not just watching away dirt. You are literally encasing it in chemical cages and dragging it into the plumbing. But soap does not just move dirt. It is also a stone-cold killer. Think about viruses like the ones that cause the flu or COVID-19. These viruses are often encased in a fatty, oily outer layer called a lipid membrane. This membrane is what holds the virus together and protects its genetic material. It is the virus's skin. Now, remember what the hydrophobic tail of a soap molecule loves? It loves oil and fat. When soap comes into contact with one of these viruses, those tails see that fatty membrane and they want in. The soap molecules literally wedge themselves into the virus's outer shell like a crowbar. They pry the membrane apart, and because they are trying so hard to get into that fat, they eventually cause the entire structure of the virus to explode. The virus is deactivated, torn to pieces, and rendered completely harmless. Then, just like with the grease, the soap molecules surround the broken pieces of the virus and wash them away. This is why doctors and scientists were screaming at everyone to wash their hands for 20 seconds. It takes a little bit of time for those soap molecules to find the viruses, wedge themselves into the membranes, and do their work. If you just splash and dash, you are leaving the job half finished.
Now, you might be wondering, where did this stuff even come from? It is not like the ancient world had chemical labs and fancy branding. The history of soap is actually pretty gross. The earliest record of a soap-like substance dates back to around 2800 BC in ancient Babylon. They discovered that if you mix animal fats with wood ashes, you get a paste that cleans things. The ashes provided the alkali, and the animal fat provided the lipids. Legend has it that the Romans discovered it at Mount Sapo, where animal sacrifices took place. The rain would wash the melted animal fat and the wood ashes from the sacrificial fires down into the clay of the riverbanks. The women washing clothes in the river noticed that this particular clay made their clothes much cleaner, and the word soap was born from the name Mount Sapo.
For thousands of years, soap was made this way, using rendered fat from cows or sheep mixed with lye. It was harsh, it smelled weird, and it was often a luxury item. It wasn't until the 1800s and early 1900s that we really started to understand the chemistry of it and began mass producing it. During World War I, there was a shortage of fats to make soap, so German scientists developed synthetic detergents. This changed everything. Today, most of the stuff you use to wash your hair or your dishes is not technically soap. It is a detergent. Detergents are engineered to work even better than traditional soap, especially in hard water. If you live in an area with hard water, you know the struggle. Hard water is full of minerals like calcium and magnesium. Traditional soap reacts with these minerals and creates that annoying white film we call soap scum. It is basically the soap molecules getting distracted by the minerals and failing to do their job on the dirt. Detergents, however, are designed to ignore those minerals and stay focused on the grease. That is why your dish soap works so well, even if you have terrible tap water.
Is there such a thing as too much soap? Well, yeah. Because soap is so good at breaking down oils, it does not know the difference between the gross oil from a pizza and the healthy oils your skin needs to stay hydrated. If you wash too much, you strip away your skin's natural barrier, leading to dry, cracked hands. That is why many modern hand soaps have added moisturizers like aloe or glycerin. They are trying to replace some of those lipids that the soap molecules just violently ripped away.
There is also the whole debate about antibacterial soap. You might see a bottle that says it kills 99% of germs and think it is way better than the regular stuff. But here's the secret. Regular soap is already incredibly effective. You don't necessarily need extra chemicals like triclosan to kill bacteria because the mechanical action of the soap and water is already destroying their membranes and washing them away. In fact, the FDA even banned some of those antibacterial ingredients in consumer soaps because they weren't proven to be any more effective than plain soap and water, and they might even contribute to antibiotic resistance. So, next time you are standing at the sink, take those 20 seconds. Think about the millions of tiny soap tadpoles that are currently engaging in a high-stakes battle on the surface of your skin. They are hunting down grease, prying apart viruses, and building microscopic bridges so that the water can carry the intruders away. It is a tiny, invisible chemical miracle happening right in the palm of your hand. It is simple, it is cheap, and it is quite literally one of the most important inventions in human history. Without it, we would still be fighting off ancient plagues with nothing but a prayer. Instead, we have a $2 bottle of liquid that turns us into a molecular powerhouse. Not bad for something that smells like a spring meadow, right?